We want to encourage everyone to attend the 2015 African American Authors Expo, the Authors and Empowerment Expo. I got to put that empowerment word in there. It's the Authors and Empowerment Expo taking place on Saturday, August the 15th at the Radisson North Baltimore Hotel, formerly called the North Baltimore Plaza Hotel in Timonium, Maryland. The Authors Expo is free and open to the public. We want to encourage everyone to come out, bring the family, bring the children. We have a lot of activities for the kids going on. No one has to stay home. This is a great, great day for networking. It's a great day to fellowship with one another. We have free workshops that's taking place throughout the entire day for inspiring authors, workshops for published authors, workshops for seasoned authors, workshops for entrepreneurs, just teaching everyone, empowering people on how to brand themselves, how to speak, how to get that speaking engagement. For those who want to write a book but seems to be stuck, we're going to talk about how to start that writing project. They're actually going to start you writing your book in the workshop, so you definitely don't want to miss that. And a very, very big part of the expo this year is empowerment, which is health and wellness. Right. We are going to be doing blood pressure checks. We're going to be doing glucose checks. We're going to be doing BMIs, body mass index is going to take place there. We got food samples that are healthy food samples that'll be at the expo this year. We're going to be doing eye exams. Some of us don't know we have issues with our eyes until it's too late, So we're going to be doing some eye exams there as well. So we definitely want to encourage everyone to come out. We got some really, really great featured authors this year.
Yeah.
So just got word that Marvin Gaye's wife will be there, Janice Gaye.
Oh, that is
it. She's going to be there talking about her life with Marvin and, all that it took marrying a man, 17 years older than her.
I got to make sure I'll be rubbing shoulders with Marvin Gaye's wife.
Yes. And of course, we have the Power Breakfast that takes place the morning of the expo. This is an event that's actually that has a fee to it, but you get the opportunity to be face to face with Dr. George C. Frazier himself. The number one networking guru, if you will, power speaker. He's all over the country, right. And he's going to be doing an up close and personal with a select few people, very small, intimate group, where they get the opportunity to kind of talk to him, ask him questions, pick his brain for a little bit, and kind of get that inside information while having breakfast. So for all that information, please go to www.aaaexpo.net for more information about the expo, more information about the Power Breakfast that's taking place with Dr. George C. Frazier, and information about the workshop. So I'm excited about the expo this year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we have had some wonderful, wonderful guests on the show this year, and to know that we're still continuing to have these high-powered authors coming to the expo. The workshops alone are worth the drive-in. I mean, because you're not going to get that quality of workshop anywhere else in the Delmarva region.
For free. That's
I'm still trying to convince her to charge, but she's
free.
No Hattie. No, it's going to be free. We're going to keep it free. And I'm telling you, the quality of these workshops, and you've got people who this is what they do all day. The branding, the publishers, the editors, all of that is important to us as authors. And again, Ms. Pat, as always, I say thank you, thank you, thank you. As an author, I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to be seen, to network, to get our books out there, get new audience for our books, the opportunity to rub elbows with people who are doing the thing. Mm-hmm. And there are authors who are selling 10, 50,000 books every time they come out with one in a 90-day period. You're just like, wow, what is it? What are they doing?
That is such an awesome thing, Hattie. Thanks for mentioning that. And I believe that it is going to be an awesome day for all of us. I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Oh, good. You were listening to Pearl Matibe, and she's the author of Defining Pearl. And so we're going to
That was a great introduction.
Yeah.
That was like a great slide into it.
I did that.
Yeah. It's going to be a good event. I've heard so much about it, so I am excited.
So, but Miss Pearl is an award-winning dynamic speaker with brilliant speeches that share her amazing story of courage, culture, grace, identity, resilience, and triumph that molded her life and inspire an audience. So please welcome to Authors Talk Live, Miss Pearl Matibe.
Hi, everybody. I want to give a big shout out to everybody in Zimbabwe and everybody around the world that is listening into this show. I want to thank Pat Harris and Hattye, and I'm here with two wonderful other authors, Barbara, I believe, and Kenya. I'm just excited to be here to share some things about this book.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, Zimbabwe?
Wow. Yes, it's a whole 18-hour flight away.
Now, you came 18 hours to be here on Authors Talk Live. That is commitment.
Let's just leave it like that, right? That's what
I
we
came
do.
here to
That's what we do here.
represent. I came here to represent everybody from our African culture and everybody from African descent.
Amen.
All
That's
right.
great. So tell us a little bit about the book, Defining Pearl.
Yes, Defining Pearl is really what it means to me to be African in Africa, what it means to me to be African in Western societies. It's about demonstrating the fact that Africans and people of African descent can define themselves and create for themselves and not be defined by other people. Baltimore is an excellent place for me to be having this message after recent things that have been going on in this city regarding our culture, our people, and our diversity. And so this is a profound statement on my African identity and our culture as people of African descent.
Wow. I just love the accent. I mean,
I love your accent, Hattye.
you know, and it's amazing to me when people from other cultures come to America, and I'm always jealous because they know where they came from. And, you know, I always wonder, wow, am I from Zimbabwe now? Or was I, you know, in Nigeria? Where am I from? Where are my people from? Do I look like people from a certain part of the continent?
And these are questions that I talk about in my book, Defining Pearl. The purpose really for me is that I aspire to inspire. The things that I say, my pearls of wisdom in Defining Pearl are the words that I hope will inspire other people to live their ideals. Yes, you may have that question, are you from Zimbabwe? We have a shared culture. We have what we should be calling self-determination. We should not be having other people tell our stories. Each and every one of us have got stories that originate from Africa. There's so much that can be shared between African Americans and Africans, and I think the key thing here is we need to define ourselves, speak for ourselves, create for ourselves. We are our own people. We should not have other people writing our histories and telling our stories.
Wow.
And one author had made that very point, like if you are afraid to tell your own story, best believe somebody's going to tell it for you, and it probably won't even touch on what the real story actually is, you know. And we see a lot of these movies and TV shows, and I just saw Unsung with who was it? Ike Turner. And his family was like, that movie was not Ike Turner,
right?
You know, but had Ike, who had thought about doing the movie, had did it himself,
it would have been much
totally
truer.
different.
It would have been truer.
Right.
And who better to tell the story than us?
Yes.
Us, all the people, you know, Kenya is here, Barbara is here. We are the people that need to be telling those stories for ourselves. And I particularly have such a tremendous burden on my own shoulders that I feel I need to leave a legacy for my children.
Yes.
Yes, my children are here. Yes, they need to know where they came from. Yes, they need to know what our heritage is. And we need to preserve that heritage. My testimony, my burden, what I need to be doing is leaving that legacy then to my children and to anybody else that I can pass it on to.
Agree with that wholeheartedly.
That's important, and I think sometimes we get caught up in the me now, let me shine, but what's going to happen when I'm not here?
When you have gone, when you have passed on, remember there are people that came here before us, my ancestors and my grandparents and my great-grandparents. I compare myself sometimes to African Americans and people here in America. You are so fortunate to have 100 years of history, whereas in Africa, history was generally passed on orally, and some of that has been lost. And now in my second book, I've been interviewing my mother, and I've been interviewing my relatives that are still living, and writing down and transcribing so that I can have it written where I came from. It is only when we understand where we came from that we can forge who we are and where we're going. It can only be for the good.
Absolutely. Now, Pearl, is Defining Pearl an account of your life? Is the book going through phases of your life, growing, learning, teaching?
Sure. Defining Pearl I wrote it, it's a memoir, so it's not an autobiography.
Okay.
It's at a point in my life when I'd completed a certain journey into the heart of who I am.
Okay.
Remember, I keep talking about identity. Who am I? Who are my people? And where am I going? It was a different point in my life. I had a very unique vantage point. I was part of a big opposition political party in Zimbabwe, and so I had a very unique point to be able to see things. And so though I was not free to speak in Zimbabwe, in America, freedom of speech, I have tasted freedom of speech.
And I asked that because as I'm looking through the book, I see the early years, and then I see school days, and then you have photos in the book as well. So
I try to depict my father, my upbringing, how I grew up, and I hope that those anecdotes will resonate with readers, because it doesn't matter where in the world you grow up. When you're a child, you're a child. You could grow up in Asia, you can grow up in Europe, but every 5-year-old has a dream. Every 6-year-old has a dream. And when I was 11, I dreamt my big wish was going to be, I was going to be an author. But I thought that being an author, you have to have tons of money and you have to be this, glorious thing. But I'm happy now because I'm living the dream I had when I was an 11-year-old girl.
Right.
So what I'm saying is it doesn't matter specifically what country you're from. Every child needs security, needs love, needs all of those things. And so that's why I depict a little bit about my childhood, because it should resonate with anybody. If any author is going to write well, it's not really going to matter about the place. We will share the same kind of... I was just sharing my childhood so people can understand where I came from. I had a little bit more of a privileged upbringing because I grew up in a white colonial culture, but I was being raised as a black African. So, of course, there are cultural realities and challenges that you face. And then coming over here, you have additional challenges. So I talk about culture a lot. I talk about heritage a lot and how we can all be such a successful people as global citizens.
Yeah, and
I have a question. So you talk about leaving a legacy, to our children and our children's children. What kind of strategies can you give us, so that we can start? Should we be journaling and writing down? How should we go about, collecting this information and passing it down?
I will be happy to do that. When I was writing Defining Pearl, how that book originated was that because I was living in fear in my own country, I used to diarize and journalize a lot. Not because I was intending to publish, but because I didn't know that I would make it out of the country alive. And so after some time, some friends then said, why don't you put your journals together? So some of those journal entries became the book. What I'm doing now, though, is when I speak to my relatives that are still living, I try to keep it contemporaneous so that I can capture their tone or their voice. And I make calls every week back home to try and, find out, how was somebody's marriage? How was, just things, that are stories that are passed down, so that I can get to know the personality of my grandmother and how she felt one day when she was ill. They're just stories that I can, that'll pass on the personality of my family. And yes, I do journalize. Right now, I don't handwrite it. I just type it into my laptop. And put it together that way. And then I travel around the country. I've been enjoying traveling and knowing America, tasting the different foods, different cultures, because you evolve as a person. So you become something else, and there's always something that you can share with other people. So yes, that is what I do. I journal a lot.
Do you journal? I do.
Okay.
Not as often as I would like, but I do.
Okay. What about
I
you,
take. I have a note. I take notes. I take notes all the time. Even on my little 20-hour-a-week job, I'm always taking out a piece of paper, writing a note whenever it hits me, and I keep all of them.
Okay.
My kids laugh at me. They say, you annotate a lot. Even if I have a little piece of paper sitting and we're going through the grocery store and an idea or something strikes you and I write it down, my son's like, you annotate. Can you stop annotating?
In fact, my congregation at church, they'll look over and they'll see me, like they'll say, oh, there she goes.
Right.
I just can't help it.
Right.
Yeah. And it's important to journal, I think. And I think for the most part, authors do that, and it's not, okay, I'm just going to write this book and now I stop journaling, but many of the professionals say it's a really good habit that you should get into if you're not doing it. And if you are doing it, you need to continue doing it. Just like you said, Pearl is for that history.
That link.
Link, right.
Let me share something else with you. Now I have two children that are, one is 21, the other one is 17, and they're almost out of the house, right? So here's the thing. This is the millennial generation. They are the Facebooking generation. And so for me to sit down in my Shona culture, we would have sat down and have been telling stories which we call ngano. I cannot do that with my children now. So how do I then explain to them what kind of person I am? One day, 20 years from now, my daughter or my son may want to know, what would my mother have done? I may have passed on. They may ask themselves, what would my mother have done in this situation? So I try to include those things so that they can understand my personality. Sometimes children don't understand the decisions that you make, why you make them, why you are the mom that you are or the woman that you are. And so one day, maybe their children will be able to say, our grandmother was like this. Is this what she did? Oh, she partied. She was clubbing.
Right.
Okay, so I can do that.
Right. Grandma did it.
Grandma did it.
That's always going to be the tag. Grandma did it.
Grandma did it.
It just runs in the blood.
She was a shopaholic, So it's just stuff. It doesn't have to be anything hugely out of this world, but I think that for them to understand what kind of personality you had, what lessons you learned, and as we age and as we grow older, certainly we're going to have some wisdom. What do we do with that wisdom? Okay? To me, it is a much better currency. It's a much better valued thing that I can pass on to another generation.
It is. It's priceless,
Yes.
When you can find something in writing like that from a relative, and you kind of, those are the things that you treasure.
Right.
Those are the things like, this is her on this paper. She wrote this from her heart,
Exactly. So you may not be the Aristotle or the Socrates who other people write their histories for them, and and they will go on for generations. And it sounds a little bit selfish, like, do I want to linger on at some point? But no, I want to, all the things that I've learned in my life, the lessons, the challenges, the great things I've enjoyed, the stuff that I love, the particular food I like, I want to be able to share that with another generation so that they will read back and be able to understand what kind of person, who was this Pearl? Who is Pearl? I mean,
And I think a lot of that doesn't happen now, and I think that's why there's such a big gap in our generation.
Yes.
The younger ones out now, and from when we grew up, it's like, where's this disconnect? Because it's like night and day almost.
True. I mean,
I remember we used to go outside. We used to play ball. We used to play skelsies with the little tops. And
everybody's on their cell phones now. Look around Boston.
I mean,
Right.
we interacted it.
Right, but you got to blame the parents because they let them sit in the house doing that stuff. I make my kids go outside.
This is a very everyday thing.
But, you know, what you're talking about is having conversations. Being transparent with your children at the appropriate time.
Right.
So there's some conversations you're not going to have with a 5-year-old. That now that they're 19 and 20 or 30, you can have these conversations. And leaving a book behind that talks about some of the things that you went through. I mean, because I was reading your bio and I'm like, what? She was a enemy of the state? What?
Correct.
Basically.
Correct.
And what was that like? How do you explain that to your children? How you became?
It's very difficult because at that time they were very young. My daughter was 7 and my son was 3, and so the concept of that is difficult to let them know at the time. We didn't hide anything from them because we were ourselves in hiding. What I did do, though, like I said, I was journaling so that if anything happened, then somebody could find the notes, could find where, what is going on, where we are. One thing that I did do, though, is when the militia arrived on my front yard, on my lawn, on my farm, I did send somebody into the house. They took my son. So my son was abducted away from the farmhouse to the tobacco auction floors. So what I did is I thought, I've got to record this. They were uniformed officers, they were military officers, and they came to kick us off the farm. What I did then was take our video camera, which is an old VHS thing, and I filmed covertly. So I still have the rolling film of all the vehicles, of all the people that came in on that day and set our house on fire, set all of our crops on fire. If it had not been for the political attaché at the United States Embassy, I wouldn't even have made it to the United States of America. But fortunately enough, when things like that happen, CNN does arrive on your front yard and the Washington Post arrives on that yard. So I'm going to give a big shout out to the Washington Post, ex-Washington Post chief correspondent, John Jeter, who is in California. He was one of the people that reported on the events, and Lindsay Hilsum, who is out in London, international news editor, who was also there. I have many, many people that I thank in the back of my book. A lot of people would have gone through refugee camps, but unfortunately, I was very lucky enough to come straight here.
Wow.
And so I look forward to mixing with other Africans of African descent and just sharing the life I live now. I'm happy. I'm happy with the life that I live now.
Right.
Well, I'm honored to be sitting here with you in your presence.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Wow.
So the book cover, for our listeners, if you want to see the cover of the book for Defining Pearl, please go to our Authors Talk Live Facebook page. If you haven't done so already, please like us and follow Authors Talk Live, but you'll be able to see a copy of Pearl's book. How did you come up with this book cover?
Okay, I'm going to let you in on a secret. Remember I told you that when I was 11, I thought if you wanted to be an author, you had to be rich and have a lot of money, and it takes all of this. Well, that photo cost me $14 plus tax. And the reason I picked it was because I speak a lot about identity. I did not want it to be addressed to any specific color of person, but we all have feet, and those feet carry us from childhood to adult, teenage years to adulthood. So it was, my feet are my journey through my life as far as aging is concerned, as well as I moved from one continent to another continent to come here. So I thought the idea of having feet as my book cover shows my journey, because we travel with our feet, right?
Yeah, wonderful. Brilliant. it fits perfect. And I love it when a book cover...
and it's not for any particular... it could be, Jews have traveled from here to there. It could be... Do you understand what I'm saying? Many people came to America. Isn't this the land of the mass? Yeah.
Anything in common.
Yeah. Everybody came to America looking for the American dream. They came from somewhere, right? So, and when they came here, they encountered some kind of cultural whatevers. And so, but they traveled here.
Yeah, I love it, and I think it was brilliant, and it connects to the book. You know, I've seen some book covers where it has nothing to do with the actual book. You know?
Well, thank you, Pat.
But I actually love this book cover, so I definitely wanted to know the inside on this. And that's why I asked, you know, like.
And then, of course, you see, looking back, our people of African descent, didn't wear shoes, and so those feet have no shoes. And I wanted to give some honor to the people that came before me.
Oh, wow.
That's something.
All right. Well, it appears we have a caller on the line who has a question for us. Caller, thank you for tuning in to Authors Talk Live. Hello. Oh, I guess they got shy. And hung up. All right.
Well, call us back. We love to hear from you. Don't be shy. We family. Yeah, we family. So don't be shy.
No pressure.
Okay, so Pearl, let our listeners know how they can get in contact with you if they just want to talk to you, where they can purchase the book.
Absolutely. I am on Facebook. They can go to facebook.com/Pearl Matibe author. You can also find me at facebook.com Pearl.Chiweshe, spelled Chiweshe. My book is available worldwide on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. You can get it on iTunes. It is available on Google Play. It is. You can simply just put in the Google box and it'll show you anywhere where you can purchase it. It's distributed all across the world right now through Kobo distributors as well.
All right.
Now, did you self-publish?
Yes, and a lot of people ask me why I self-publish and didn't go traditional. Now, remember, I was coming from a country which is, by President Obama's definition, is one of the top 5 dictatorships in the world. And there is no freedom of speech. And so when you publish traditionally, traditional publishers tend to control the content, your text, and the direction of your book. To me, self-publishing is a way of me speaking freely. And I decided to use Frison Press. Frison Press is part of the Frison Corporation, which also published one of the Harry Potter books and the Oxford Dictionary. So they've got 100 years of tradition. So I felt like I was already getting the tradition, but able to speak freely and say what I want to say without somebody directing how I should say it. And remember, I keep saying, I felt like as a black person, I want to be able to define what I say about myself and not have somebody telling me how I should define myself.
Absolutely. I think self-publishing is taking off.
Yeah.
Just some years ago, you very rarely found a lot of people that would self-publish their book, and I think that number has grown tremendously,
astronomically.
Yeah, and a lot of authors are taking that walk of wanting to maintain control.
I think it gives you a lot of freedom to create. Mm-hmm. Although traditional publishing, you're going to get a lot of the guidance, you're going to get a lot of the help as far as promoting. For us now, after we've published, I'm sure Barbara and Kenya here experience that the publishing work is still a lot of work for us to do.
That's
even after you've written the book.
That all the time.
And that's why we do these empowerment workshops at the Expo, is to give you guys some more resources on what you need to do or continue to do if you're doing it already to market, promote, because you have to put the work in. When you decide to go down that road of self-publishing, and even sometimes with the midstream publishing company, you still have to put the work in, and if you don't do it, guess what? You're going to have a ton of books sitting in your basement somewhere because you didn't put the work in.
For 50 cents.
Right, exactly. So I totally agree with that.
I just wanted to add real quick, Pat, I don't want to paint a doom and gloom, a gloomy picture about Zimbabwe 100%, but I did want to share out there for any of the listeners and so on that, there is a group of people in and outside of Zimbabwe who have begun a platform called the Zimbabwe Policy Dialogue Institute, which is working to bring restoration, healing, and turn Zimbabwe itself around. So we look forward absolutely to working with everybody from all over the world. And that's why we will write, and that's why I will write and write some more.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you coming on to Authors Talk Live today, Pearl. Again, it's Pearl Matibe. It's spelled Matibe. If you want to look her up on Amazon, Facebook, or her other sites. Again, we appreciate you coming to Authors Talk Live. We hope it won't be the last time.
Thank you.
And we are going to take a really quick break here on Authors Talk Live. When we return, we're going to be speaking with our other in-studio guests, Miss Kenya Conway-Jones and Miss B.A. Peakney. Just want to remind everyone, it's an all-new season of WPBRadio.com. Log on to WPB Radio website and click the prize vault for your chances to win prizes and surprises. You're tuned in to Authors Talk Live on WPBRadio.com.
So much. Thank you so much. Yes, that'll be awesome. Thank you.
Life is like a big
It's so important with our kids now, and
You're up
with the way
and
that
down.
in our traditional schools here in
Going in circles, trying